All right, so this is the moon in Aquarius. So first of all, you need to know what time you were born, where, all that stuff, birth date, obviously, because the moon changes every 2 to 3 days. And so sometimes you have a day where the moon actually went into another sign. And so that the way that person expresses their emotions is going to be different than the sign before it, right? And so you want to make sure, or day of the sign after it, so you want to make sure that you have the birth time. If you don't have it, you can figure that out. But if you're doing this video for your child, I'm pretty sure you know what time they were born. Or if you're, you're someone who just wants to know about someone that you're, you're a grandparent, you're an aunt or uncle, or you're a teacher or something like that, you just want to know about a kid, like, you can use their birth date and make a guess on what the moon was if the moon changed that day. So we're talking about the moon in Aquarius. So Aquarius is an air sign, and it's fixed air. And so typically with your moon in Aquarius, people, these are thinkers. Like, these are children who are really intense thinkers. And so sometimes they have a very wise perspective on things from a young age. And there's a lot of signs like that. There's Pisces, moon in Pisces, just more that, more empathetic though. But you have Sagittarius, you have Scorpio, and Capricorn. Any of the older signs are pretty mature, especially emotionally. And so sometimes with Aquarius, it can be too much maturity because they're not an exceptionally emotional sign, but they still need nurturing. And I say it's really important. This is really important. I know tons of moon and Scorpio people, especially even like family members. A lot of moon and Scorpio children feel like they didn't get the attention or affection from one parent or the other. All right. Now I'm not saying every single moon Aquarius, because maybe you're a moon Aquarius and you're like, maybe you're a person, you're like, no, my child gets plenty of love. But that doesn't mean that's how that child is going to interpret it, because the moon is, the moon isn't just what your parent is like. It's also like, to me, it's more so like your experience with your parents. And so even if you did something and you thought you did it right, that person could interpret it differently because their emotional needs are different than yours. And so moon in Aquarius, a lot of times there's even like, they're like estranged from one parent or the other. Usually that's the case. And sometimes it's like interesting. A lot of moon Aquarius people I know, remember, Aquarius is the sign of like humanity and groups and friendship and things of that nature. And so Aquarius actually, the way they exhibit friendship though is through their associations. And so sometimes people are like, but Aquarius is kind of quirky, or Aquarius isn't, Aquarius isn't necessarily a very open sign. Maybe they're not like Gemini or Libra. But remember, Aquarius is still an air sign, so they're about communication. So they communicate through groups and their association with groups and their association with other people, right? And so with Aquarius energy, a lot of moon Aquarius people end up being raised almost like by a village. By village, I mean like other people, extended family members. I don't mean exclusively. I mean like they might have been someone who's like, yeah, their parents raised them, but their grandmom did, and their aunt, and their uncle, and they had all these people around them. It's very common in moon and Aquarius people, even compared to their siblings, because, it's interesting. Not all, but some of the moon and Aquarius, especially if you're the oldest moon and Aquarius person, you had a different experience. So your kid might have a different experience than their siblings for some reason, because Aquarius is a sign that is different. It's unique. Remember, it's ruled by Saturn and Uranus. And when you have Saturn is ruling Capricorn as well. So Aquarius has kind of like that maturity, but sometimes it's like, it's too mature. It's like, that's why Aquarius children sometimes can like push back on authority a little bit. They don't like to feel restricted, much like Sagittarius, but Aquarius is way worse with that. They don't like feeling restricted from freedom and being open because they're an air sign. But, a lot of them, they just have like a different experience from their siblings for some reason, or they perceive they're different. A lot of moon Aquarius, your child. So if you're a parent, you might want to just really pay attention to how you treat the moon Aquarius child versus their siblings, because as they grow up, or as even they get older, they're going to interpret that as like, my parent didn't do X, Y, and Z, or my parent viewed me different from my siblings, or my brother and sister get this and I didn't get this. It's a very, very common. So if you're raising a moon Aquarius child, and there might not be anything you can do, again, the moon is, yes, it's how you feel, right? It's how you interpret it. Your child, how a person interprets and processes their emotions. And so sometimes it's like, you can do everything you think is right, but that person's perception is still going to be different than yours, right? But one thing I like about Moon in Aquarius, and even as children, you see this as adults too, like they have a strong obligation to family. So your Moon in Aquarius child might not be the most affectionate child off the bat. They'll receive affection, but they tend to do things out of obligation. And so your Moon in Aquarius person, a lot of them, even if they feel they're different than their family members, or they feel they were treated differently, they feel they're treated differently than their siblings, they still do things for their family. So these are not children necessarily going to hold a grudge for some interesting reason. Like Moon in Aquarius, because Moon in Aquarius is also, remember, it's ruled by Saturn. Saturn rules Capricorn. Capricorn is very parental and very traditional. And so that Saturn energy in Aquarius, even though they're different than Capricorn, it still makes them a little bit traditional. And because of that, they feel the obligation to their family. No matter what happened, they feel an obligation to be a part of their family, to help their family, and to be there for them. So that's a trait that I've noticed a lot in Moon in Aquarius children and people. Actually, I've noticed it more in adults. And so this obviously starts somewhere in childhood. Another thing about Moon in Aquarius is like, they need to be involved in different things. This is the type of child that you want to put in different activities, or let them explore these different activities. Similar to how I said in Moon in Sagittarius, that like you want to let them kind of explore. Moon in like Sagittarius is mutable and Aquarius is fixed, but both of them require freedom. Okay, remember Uranus is that unexpected, unpredictable planet, whereas Jupiter rules Sagittarius, but Jupiter is also not very strategic. Jupiter is just luck, or Jupiter's just try it. Let's just go. Let's just experience, and let's go to this journey and discover things, right? And so anytime you have those planets in something, it's creating this idea of like, I don't want the rules. And so Aquarius and Sagittarius moon children, especially the way they feel, they don't want to feel restricted. Okay, they don't want to feel restricted. And so definitely let them explore their own talents and what it is that they're actually interested in. Now, what you also have to realize about Moon in Aquarius, that's different a little bit than Moon in Sag. Moon in Aquarius sometimes can be they can lack motivation. And that's a sign you really do have to worry about, especially anything with Saturn can be prone to depression and things of that nature. So sometimes Moon in Aquarius children can sometimes automatically lack motivation to do things. They have a lot of talent. Remember, Moon in Aquarius is pretty bright. Aquarius energy is smart, logical, picks things up very fast, understands things. But at the same time, Saturn sometimes can be overwhelming, and they're ruled by Saturn and Uranus. And so it's almost like sometimes you'll get like a different side of them, and sometimes they can lack motivation. They can lack, because Aquarius energy itself is not it's not moving fast. It's not going to. It doesn't want to. It's fixed. First of all, it's a fixed sign. And so it's kind of like, I know I'm going to get it done. I don't need to rush. Saturn doesn't rush, and Uranus is not predictable. Now, Saturn is more mature than Uranus, but Saturn's also kind of stuck in its ways. So that's the energy you have going on with this Aquarius type of person. And so when it's the moon and their feelings, how's your child going to react? Well, sometimes they might be a little bit lazy. They're not going to want to do something because inside they don't feel like doing it. Okay, they don't feel like doing it. It doesn't motivate them. It doesn't push them. Or they want to do things on their own accord, because remember, they're ruled by Uranus, and Uranus wants to be different. And it doesn't see the reason to be the same as everyone else. And I think Aquarius is such an interesting sign, because those two planets, I truly believe they both rule this, because I see so much of it in people. I see so much of it because when Aquarius tries, they get it done. They understand how to do things, but it's just they don't want to do it on your time. They want to do it on their time, and they don't think they have to be like everybody else. They don't care about fitting in necessarily. And so that's what you have to understand about the Moon in Aquarius child. The big things I think is just like, yes, some of them might feel different, and growing up feeling different, you want to make sure that you're nurturing what they are good at. You want to make sure that you're motivating them. You don't want to call them lazy. Calling them lazy doesn't work. A Moon in Aquarius person, like the way you motivate them, you have to remind them how great they are. You have to remind them of what they're capable of, because sometimes they can kind of lag in certain areas, and you have to remind them of like, no, you can do this, or you've done this before. Or you know what you do? You tailor what you're doing for that Moon in Aquarius child, because they're an individual and they need to feel that they're tailored to. Do you get what I'm saying? Where the sun in Aquarius is like, might say like, I'm different. This is me. I'm about the collective, and I'm going to help the group, and I'm going to do things on my own accord, and I'm, you know, logical, and I'm going to push things forward, and I have revolutionary ideas. But your moon needs to feel. And so moon Aquarius almost doesn't want to be treated like everybody else. And sometimes they do kind of have like the special snowflake kind of thing going on. Like they might look at it like, well, I did this. A lot of them, you know, you have to push them, right? Because they're so witty and they're intelligent, and they can get things done pretty easily. But the moon is what motivates you, and the moon is what's driving you. And so moon in Aquarius has to really, really be pushed sometimes. Now, again, you can have other signs there. You know, you're not going to have a really lazy moon in Aquarius Virgo who has a Scorpio rising. Typically, that's not going to happen. And, you know, as opposed to being impulsive. So moon Aquarius, the benefits of the child being moon Aquarius, they're not impulsive. They're kind of going to think things through. They're not going to be as daring as some other signs where sometimes you're like, wait, what did you do? So there's more of a thought process going on there, which is good. All right. So that is it for moon in Aquarius. Please hit the like video if you can relate, or if you learned something new that you found was interesting. Thanks.